It is Wednesday, my dudes, and of course you know what that means. It is time once again to revisit Velocity Lake. But not just revisit. Oh, I've deleted a lot of things. I'm not going to delete everything I just deleted just then, but I want to delete a lot of this, and that is, we gotta address the elephant in the room, the thorn in my side, the pain in my neck. The entrance infrastructure of this park is just terrible. And when I say the entrance infrastructure, I mean the actual road connecting to the car park. It's not good. I've always said that the actual space between the actual, external roads of the theme park and then the welcome toll booth bit and then the car park itself, it's all so squished together. Most theme parks, there's lots and lots of road space for cars to queue, etc., etc. It's not very realistic. In the past, I justified this by saying, look, at the end of the day, Planet Coaster is not a completely realistic game. The map size is absurdly small. You can't make full-size theme parks in Planet Coaster, or at least you can make full-size theme parks of, small theme parks, but you can't build a Disneyland scale park in Planet Coaster realistically because the map size is too small. So I always kind of justified it. But you know what? Gosh darn it. It's not good enough. Okay, we can't keep it to a completely realistic scale, but we could probably do it better than what it is. So then it came to how do I do this? Normally what people do is they build a road going along the south border of the park, but as you can see, I've got no space. So I thought, let's just make a small road on the south border of the park, and that will be where cars can queue, and that's where we'll put the toll booth, which you can see me moving here. But then we'll use the west. Yes, the west. I'm trying to think of how this is oriented now. Yes, we'll use the west perimeter of the park to build the motorway, the freeway, it's the A road. It's an A road in the UK. That's what we call roads that aren't quite motorways. Motorways being the biggest roads in the UK. I don't know what the equivalent would be in the US. I know you have freeways and there are highways. I don't know if they're the same. Are they the same? I don't know. I don't really care, to be honest. But we have motorways, which are the big 3 or 4 or even more lane roads, speed limit of 70. A roads, whilst you can get triple carriageway and single carriageway, typically are dual carriageway when we're talking about A roads of this scale. Actually, now I say that, it's not. They're basically the next tier down from motorway, but not quite a normal road. I have no idea what I'm saying. And we've got, it's very short, it's not very long into the video where I've already lost all semblance of a train of thought. So it's going well. So that's going to be what we're going to be doing over this episode and the next episode. Well, this episode, when I was cobbling together how I was going to present this as a YouTube video or series of YouTube videos, I took all the footage of me building all the roads, the infrastructure, refining the car park and all that stuff. It was 11 hours of footage, basically. So I'm like, okay, there's probably too much to put into a single episode. How can I best split this up? My solution is I managed to cut those 11 hours down to just 1 hour and 8 minutes-ish, I think. So I think I can probably split that into 2 coherent episodes. So this episode will be focusing mainly on the actual highway, what did I even call it? The A road, on the A road itself. And then next episode, we'll just do some of the bells and whistles of that A road, like some of the signage, things like that. And then we'll be focusing more on the actual connection of the A road to the theme park's car park, as in mostly focusing on the car park, to be honest. So that's the thesis, the crux, the summary of the next 2 episodes that you will be watching. Maybe you probably won't after watching this episode, but who knows, you might. Now we can talk about what's happening on screen. So I've built this little wooden path. Don't worry, it's not actually going to stay here. I just built that so I had a sort of guide to build a curved piece of road. I made it using the concrete pillar pieces. The reason I'm using the concrete pillar pieces is because they're not bound to the grid. And I didn't want this to just be a curved road. I wanted it to be a curved off-ramp from the A road. Because, of course, the A road, I don't want it just on the ground because it's just a bit easier if we don't. So it's going to be sort of suspended a few meters off the ground, like a lot of A roads are. Like the ground around us, it is a bit marshy. There's lots of rivers, lots of undulations in the terrain. It's the perfect place to build a theme park now I think about it. So it would make sense, I think, if this were a real road, that it would be raised from the ground level. But I ain't no civil engineer, so who knows. So, yes, we've built the road. I had one continuous white line because it's far easier to then just delete segments of the line once the road is done rather than then having to retrace the shape of the road with the intermittent white line. So that's it there. And then we can get to elevating it in a second, I guess. I think I was just sort of working out a rough draft of how it would be laid out first by duplicating some of the road that connects the off-ramp to the car park. This is all just placeholder, of course, and now it's gone, I think. There's the road there. Now, I can't even remember now. I feel like I looked it up. Do these off-ramps actually have that banking? I think they do. I think at least some of them do. So I thought, although I didn't plan for it to be banked just by, raising it up and tilting it into its position, I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to be banked. But I think that might be realistic. If it's not, I don't care that much because it's not that obvious to see when you first look at it, and I think that's good enough. This is very much just periphery to the park itself. Like, this is not supposed to be the focal point. I've always said on this series that I consider Planet Coaster more like a model train set rather than a realistic theme park simulation. Like, of course, I guess a model train set would be a simulation of a railway, but they are a little bit fantastical. Like, there are so many railways everywhere in this village. It's a tiny village. Why has it got 17 train tracks going through it? So it's a little bit like that with Planet Coaster. Like, it's not that realistic to have such a small theme park with this many roller coasters squished together, and then all these guests coming in. It's just like, it's not meant to be a super realistic. It just looks nice. And considering that I don't really want people looking at my model theme park to be focusing too much on just this road, I think it's perfectly acceptable. And I've talked about this a lot, and just now, as in I spent a long time talking about this, and it may even be a moot point. Let's face it, it might actually be a realistic road, and I didn't need to dig myself out of a hole that doesn't exist. I've basically just dug a hill down to ground level. What am I talking about? I don't know, but there's not much really happening on screen, so I've got nothing to really elaborate on. I just used the temple pieces to form a sort of support structure for the off-ramp itself and to kind of thicken out the ramp, as in, like, making it believably thick, because I feel like one concrete pillar thickness is not enough to support an articulated truck. I just sort of duplicated it down a bit and just, shifted each layer here and there to make it all line up nicely. So that's it there. It's not the best looking thing, but a lot of roads in the UK, like when you look at them from underneath, which, most people don't, but there are a few roads where you can walk underneath them, like there's a footpath going underneath them. They don't look very good. They look very just brutalist, concrete, bit rough around the edges, so that's how I'm now describing my building style in Planet Coaster. Just, a bit rough around the edges, not very good looking. It's a good way of selling people on this series, I'm sure. And again, we're using the temple pieces for supporting the main A road here. Of course, it's going to need much more substantial support because it's a bigger road. The cars and trucks and whatever kind of vehicles you can think of traveling along it are going at higher speeds, so I guess that would mean there's more stress on the road, possibly. I don't know, actually. I guess it wouldn't be any more like downward force, but it would create more friction on the asphalt, which would then cause shifting. I don't really know. Again, I'm not an engineer. So you guys, if you guys are engineers in the comments and have answers to all of these things, you can leave them below. I don't really care that much. I'm just sort of spitballing here, I'm just trying to nurse you along through the footage, trying to guide us through the video as we hurtle our way closer and closer to the sweet embrace of oblivion. And that's all I have to say about that, really. So like I say, yes, the A-Road has wider structures supporting it than the off-ramp because it's a wider thing. And that's all I have to say about that. And I think that's it. I'm just thinking, like, what else do I need to talk about that distinguishes the... I'm leaving all of this in, by the way. I need to keep this as lengthy as possible. I need to think about other ways of how is the A-Road different to the off-ramp. But I feel like there's only so much you can really talk about when discussing the differences in, design of an off-ramp versus an A-Road, right? The off-ramp is a downward sloping ramp that moves cars off the A-Road, hence off-ramp. They're not even called off-ramps in the UK. I personally never heard them get called off-ramps. And obviously, Velocity Lake is set in the United Kingdom. We call them slip roads, I think. I've never heard anyone else call them anything different. This is always one of those times when I say, this is what we say in England. It turns out only I say this, and my, the people I know say this. I was like, what are you talking about? It's funny, like, everyone in the UK has little things that they call stuff. Like in Leicester, for example, instead of saying bacon, I grew up in Leicester, by the way, for context. Yes, we don't really say bacon sandwich. We say bacon cob, like COB. And then I went to Sheffield to do my university degree. I don't know why I needed to add the words university. To do my degree, my higher education studies. And I was like, oh yeah, let's go get a bacon cob. And they're like, what are you talking about? A bacon cob? Is that like a bacon butty? Because that's another regional dialect thing. So we've got a lot of quirks like that in the UK. So I don't know if I might say, oh, in the UK we say this. And it turns out only my specific regional dialect has that in its lexicon and everyone else says something different. So maybe off-ramp is used in the UK, at least in some parts of it. What else? What other weird things did I say? I said alleyway. We used to call alleyways twitchels. That was something my mum just used to call them, and I've literally never, ever, ever heard anyone call them that. So that could just be a weird thing that my family does. But, you know, there's other things, right? Like, I don't know. My mind has just gone blank. My mind, it thinks of that Name a Woman video. Have you seen that, guys? Seen that? When that reporter goes on the streets, it's like in a US city. It looks like New York or something. But I guess all US cities look the same, so who knows? I feel like I've got to trigger people now. I've said that, but... yeah, he just rushes up to some poor person on the street and just says, name a woman, and shoves a microphone in her face. And you're like, oh, that's a really hard question when you're suddenly on the spot. What's funny is that when people see that video, a lot of people say Michelle Obama. Like that was the person I thought of when I said name a woman, and that's what a lot of people said. Like that's what my girlfriend said when she first saw the video. It's weird. Did you guys think of Michelle Obama when asked to name a woman? What interesting topics on this video about the construction of an A road next to a theme park. Anyway, let's continue. We haven't really... I've been talking about, oh yes, we're building the A road and all that. We still haven't really finished doing the slip road. We've kind of built the bit that takes the cars... We've built the transitional piece of road that connects the A road to the slip road, but we still haven't built the A road itself. But I mean, the actual style of the A road here, you can see... Again, I've said it again. The actual style of the... what's a good word? Transitional piece here. This is going to be the same sort of style as the A road. We're not going to build this here. I'm going to build a single segment of it, kind of away from the rest of the structure, so I can easily duplicate it. So I kind of do that, duplicate it, and then do some more changes, duplicate it again. This is a trick I do a lot in Photoshop. When I want to make a lot of changes to a particular layer in the image, I'll typically just duplicate it, so I've got a backup of before I started editing, in case it turns out I didn't do a very good job editing it and I ruin it. I can quickly just undo and just go back to the old version of the layer, if that makes sense. So that's why I've got those two segments there, rather than just continually building upon just the one segment. And there we have it. A piece of A road, which we can now duplicate. Oh, I'm doing some more modifications apparently. I think I'm just changing it up a little bit for the part that connects to the transitional piece that connects the A road to the slip roads. Yes, this is the English language at its best right here. And then I realized actually that we have a very high frequency of street lamps. We can just delete them like as such. And there we have it. There is a shot of us by night. And that's one of the things I didn't really like too much about the actual view of the nighttime version of Velocity Lake, which I guess is the same as the daytime version of Velocity Lake. But one thing I don't like about the aesthetic appearance of Velocity Lake at night is the fact that all the cars in the car park have their headlights on. Or is it the brake lights on? Either way, they're not just completely off, which is what would realistically be the case. You can turn off like the car headlights or something like that in Planet Coaster, but even if you do that, you basically just click it and press activate on trigger, but then never set it to a trigger. The cars are still on, if that makes sense. Like the brake lights are shining. I'm not exactly sure what is on the car, but it is emitting light. I think it's like the brake lights and the side lights, things like that. That's one of the things I don't like, but there isn't much I can really do about that other than just deleting all the cars and making my own out of the art pieces, which will always look even worse. Maybe there are some Theme Makers Toolkit cars out now that would be better, but I am trying to keep this thing as vanilla as possible. Yes, I'm using all the DLCs. I don't think there's a single DLC I haven't used in this series, except the most recent one, actually, now I think about it. That there's a flat ride, and that's all the DLC is, just the one flat ride. I think I have it. I think Frontier sent me a key. I just never redeemed it, because I'm like, I'm probably never going to build this ride, to be honest, so I just literally can't be bothered to download it. That's the one DLC I haven't got, but... yeah, what was I talking about? Something about the cars. I don't know how the cars are all on. Oh, yes. Maybe there's a Theme Makers Toolkit item of a car now that isn't lit up at night. But at this point, I'm too deep. I'm too deep in this series. I really, really cannot stress how much I cannot be bothered to go and change all the cars again. So this is it to stay, I'm afraid. But again, like I say, I always think of Planet Coaster as being more like a model train set than necessarily a super realistic theme park simulation building thing. Use whatever synonym worked best there. It's pretty crazy though, some Theme Maker's Toolkit stuff. Like, it was always my understanding that the Theme Maker's Toolkit, for those that don't, a lot of you in the comment section actually have said that you don't play Planet Coaster, you just like listening to my ramblings. So I'm always very flattered by those comments. So thank you. I'm glad that this can provide some means of entertainment or escapism for you, but yeah, I digress. A lot of you say that you don't play Planet Coaster, so I'll quickly just explain what I mean when I say Theme Maker's Toolkit. So when the game first came out, it wasn't supportive of mods. Like, you couldn't really do anything to the game that wasn't part of the game anyway. You couldn't really do third-party mods. But then the devs added Steam Workshop support kind of for custom models. So you can make a model in something like Blender and then save it to the Steam Workshop. People can just import that model into their parks. And that's what we mean by saying Theme Maker's Toolkit items. But it was always my understanding that the items had to be very, very simple and more crucially had to be very small. Like, you couldn't really have, you couldn't, for example, I don't know, make a one-to-one replica of the Millennium Falcon and then import it into your park 'cause it's too big. I guess you could probably weasel around it by making tons and tons of tiny little pieces that all fit together like some elaborate jigsaw puzzle that form it, but I think that would always be quite difficult. And regardless, I think it's like, when I'm saying small pieces, I mean, like, you know, the biggest size you could make would be like a wheelie bin or like, I don't know, another small thing. I'm now looking around my room looking for it's like the name a woman thing. It's like, name a small thing. Guinea pig. You could make a guinea pig. In Theme Maker's Toolkit and have a guinea pig in your park. Aw. Now I want a guinea pig in my theme park. Guys, vote below if you would like a guinea pig or a Syrian hamster or a mouse. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. I've now decided I want to do that. When I release this park, I'm going to quickly either download a Theme Maker's Toolkit guinea pig or just make one myself. I will literally learn Blender for this and then hide it somewhere in the park. And there could be like a Where's Waldo or Where's Wally for people in the UK. Where's Wally quest to see who could find the guinea pig first. That'll be fun. I don't know. I did that in my Animal Crossing island, actually. I've been playing a lot of Animal Crossing, as I mentioned in a few of these episodes now, as I've been doing these commentaries. And I got the decoy duck recipe, which lets you craft a duck, and I hid like 6 ducks on my island. And then the idea is that if anyone visits, we can have duck hunt. Like, if I had like 2 guests around, we say duck hunt. Who can find all 5 ducks first? But of course, this would require friends, and I realized that there was that caveat. Too late, and so it'll never happen. No, I'm just joking. I do have some. We've got like a Facebook group chat where we just discuss turnip prices. Just go to each other's. Anyway, this is not going to be another animal. That was always a criticism of this series. I mean, it was a self-imposed criticism. That being said, where I always used to talk about Kerbal Space Program throughout these Planet Coaster commentaries, and now it seems it's just become the Animal Crossing musings playlist, because I mean, I kind of like the fact that I can just talk about anything in this series, because ultimately the footage does all of the talking for me. It's just basically, this is how I did it. And then you can just watch me. There's not much ambiguity to it. Like in something like Kerbal Space Program, I can't really just ramble that much because a lot of the stuff I'm doing is quite involved. Like saying, this is what I'm doing, as in like, I'm now executing a burn here, and this is the reason why, and this is the benefits of it, and now we're this high up in the atmosphere, so I need to trigger this action group sequence, and this is why it's beneficial, and this is why. And so there's a lot more to talk about throughout a video in KSP, whereas Planet Coaster is like, yes, we're building a road. And I find in this series, I summarize the content of the entire episode within like the first 2 minutes, and then find myself blindly panicking about the fact I've got nothing else to talk about. I'm like, oh god, I've now just completely screwed myself over because I have no idea what to talk about now for the rest of the episode, and thus we get on to the topics that we've discussed today. Like, oh god, I've just remembered why we even got onto this stupid guinea pig hunting topic. It's because I was talking about some crazy Theme Maker's Toolkit items that I've been seeing. I was saying, oh yes, it was my understanding that the Theme Maker's Toolkit items had to be small, and there was a reason. I had a point to make, and I didn't make it because I went on another tangent about Animal Crossing and ducks and guinea pigs. But no, Theme Maker's Toolkit items has to be really, really small, was my understanding. But then I saw this really, really cool Madhouse ride made by another YouTuber called Loakin on the subreddit, and he basically had just built a working Madhouse a flat ride that moved and everything. It worked. Obviously, guests, I don't think, can interact with it. But it would work, it would move, it was sequenced, it was amazing, and it was huge. Like, it was a 1-to-1 scale, for Planet Coaster scale, at least. And it worked, and I was like, what is this? Is this, like, some trickery? And I think he got a bit annoyed, because I was like, is it not obvious that it's that it's Theme Maker's Toolkit? I was like, I didn't realise, I thought it was just, I thought Theme Maker's Toolkit items had to be small. So sorry, Loakin, for maybe asking a stupid question. I was amazed by it. It was incredible. So maybe I'll put a link to his Reddit post where he posted it, if I remember to put that in the description. Although I do generally, believe it or not, guys, I do generally proof watch these videos before I publish them. In fact, I don't know why I said generally. I always proof watch these videos, and I always proof watch them on YouTube, because I know YouTube's, like, the way it uploads videos and processes them, it makes the quality much, much worse. There have been times I've uploaded a video and it looked fine on my monitor, like in its like MP4 state, but then when I watched it on YouTube, I'm like, you can't see anything. It's way too dark to pick out any details. So generally I get around this by like really, really bright. Like, a lot of my videos are super ugly when I render them because they're very, very bright and very, very oversaturated. But when I put them on YouTube, YouTube's like upload processing works its magic and it becomes bearable. So that's kind of one of the things I do to get around it. What was I? Oh, yes. I was like, how do I get onto this topic? Yeah, so I often proof watch these videos on YouTube itself. So hopefully future Matt, whenever this goes up, I think it will be going up in 2 weeks from today for me. It's the 23rd of May right now, and I think I've only got one more. But yeah, I think it goes up in 2 weeks. Future Matt, 2 weeks from today, Matt will be like, aha, he's saying we need to put something in the description. So I'll just pause the video, open up the description, quickly paste a link in it, and then go back to proof watching the video. Hello, future Matt. How are things? Things are all right here. It's very warm in this room, as it usually is, as I'm sure you can relate. As I'm sure you guys could all probably relate at this point, because things are getting warmer and warmer in the world. And of course, I mention this very frequently as a frequently recurring topic in this series, how warm my room can get when the sun be shining when it shines. Yeah. So how's the I really need to lose weight, guys. I've been putting a lot of let's try that a sentence again. I've been putting on a lot of weight recently because I've basically, before this whole lockdown situation happened, I was having my kitchen done, as in everything had to get ripped out, and then the lockdown happened, and so all the building work had to stop. So my kitchen isn't really it's more like a barren building site with a sink in it. Like, I've been a bit cheeky with the number of takeaways I've been getting, and I find that when we can't go out or do anything, I've been drinking a lot more. Like, I'm not, monetization purposes, I'm not glorifying this, and I'm not necessarily talking about whiskey. I'm just energy drinks, in fact. But, I've been feeling like, well, we've got nothing to do now, and it's, 9 o'clock. Let's just have a little drink of energy drink, as an example of something that one might say. And I feel like that's not been helping the weight situation either. So maybe I should do a weight loss series on my second channel, but I'm as soon as I commit myself to something, I won't do it. So I'm probably just gonna have to try and make myself a little bit healthier in one way or another. I feel like I'm just gonna continue on this unhealthy path until my kitchen gets done, and then I've got no excuses. At the moment, I've got so many excuses to just do it. I'm like, whatever. It's fine. I deserve a treat sometimes, and 6 months of poor health. That's a poor choice of words, actually. But 6 months of just not caring about what I eat. I'm just giving myself this, and then I'll just try and sort it out at some point. That's a problem for future Matt to deal with, who hopefully is not too disgusted with me right now watching this video. I'm so sorry. Anyway, where are we? What are we even doing? What is on the screen? When was the last time I even talked about what was happening on the screen? I feel like I haven't really been looking at the video footage for like a good few hours at this point. How long has this video been going on for? 24 minutes. Is that it, really? It feels like days have passed at this point, and I've just been, I've been rocking back and forth in a straitjacket in a padded room, just talking about guinea pigs and duck hunting and things like that. But yeah, I can see that we've actually done the road, so great stuff. I know this comment section is going to be particularly flooded with Planet Coaster, I said it wrong, City Skyline references. I get without fail on every single Planet Coaster video at least one person asking me to play City Skylines, or have I heard of City Skylines? And yes, I have, to both of those things, and I don't really want to make a series on City Skylines because this Planet Coaster series is enough of a time sink as it is when I've already got a full-time job and a Kerbal Space Program series to maintain as well. And more to the point, I just don't really enjoy City Skylines as much as Planet Coaster. Like, I played a lot of SimCity 3000. I then bought SimCity 4 on a whim in a Steam sale and never played it. And then, I remember it was always a game I wanted when I was younger, but my PC couldn't run it for some reason. Well, it could run SimCity 3000, so I'm not sure what the problem was, but I couldn't get it to run. I bought it from Asda for like $4.99. And it just didn't work for whatever reason. And then I never bothered pursuing it. And now I don't know where it is. So anyway, I bought it on a whim in a Steam sale. And then I played it for like 2 minutes. And then I'm like, okay, I'm done now. So I'm not that bothered about city building simulators anymore. I think because I used to play a lot of SimCity 3000. And then I discovered Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. And that was it. I'm like, this is way better. So I think Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 really captured my imagination for the theme park building genre. I never played Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 actually. I think I played a bit of Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 at my friend's house when I was very young, like before I had pocket money or anything, so I couldn't have bought it myself. I played a bit then and I really, really liked it, but he was one of those guys that just like, you go around his house and watch him play video games. It's like, this is really, really cool. I'd love to play this, but then I'd go home and forget about it, and it's not like I could have bought it myself anyway. I didn't have the financial means to do so. But then I finally got Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. And that was it. I was like, this is amazing. I love it. So that's kind of what got me hooked. And then obviously Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 came out, and that was a game changer. That's got to be one of my most played Steam games. And I played it a lot before I got Steam. Like, I had it on disc for years. I had Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 Platinum. That was the one that only had Soaked. It didn't have Wild attached to it. So I had that for like years and years, and I played it so much. I built so many theme parks in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. And then I bought it again on Steam and played it for loads, hours and hours and hours again. And in fact, I made a couple of YouTube videos on Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 as well. So that's fun. So love Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. And then obviously when I heard Planet Coaster was going to come out, I'm like, this is amazing. Because Planet Coaster is more of a sequel to Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 than Roller Coaster Tycoon World or any of the other train wrecks that Atari has released since Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. And that's because Planet Coaster, for those who don't know, has the exact same dev team, or it's the same studio at least, who made Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, who made Planet Coaster. Frontier Studios, one of my favorite game developers, and I guess a lot of favorite developers for you guys as well. Because you might like Planet Coaster, but also they make Elite Dangerous, which is a very popular game among my viewers, because I guess there's a lot of crossover between the Elite Dangerous fan base and the Kerbal Space Program fan base. So it's like, I said another game people talk about is Planet Coaster. I said it again. Planet Cities Skylines. A lot of people say that. And then in the Kerbal comments, people always ask me to play either Space Engineers or Simple Rockets 2. So disclaimer, I have heard of Simple Rockets 2. This is honestly one of my most asked questions is, have you heard of Simple Rockets 2? I'm like, yes, I have it. The devs actually gave me a copy on Steam. And I played it for a bit. I just couldn't. It's one of those, it's like an not ultra realistic, but very, very realistic rocket simulator. And it just wasn't for me. It's not a bad game. It's a good game. It's just not for me, And that's the same thing with City Skylines. I don't even know if I finished this tangent. By the way, it looks like I'm doing an overview of the park so far right now, so enjoy this while it lasts. Oh, I took a screenshot. That's nice. I've heard of City Skylines. I've played City Skylines. It's a good game. It's just not for me, and I don't really want to make a series on it. Same thing for Simple Rockets 2. And the same thing kind of for Space Engineers. I played Space Engineers so much when I bought it. I bought it on Steam on a whim in like 2014, and I really, really enjoyed it. It was amazing. I played it so much, got completely burned out and then stopped. And now there's been so many updates since. It's a totally different game, and I just don't have the strength or the mental energy to go back and relearn the game from scratch. One of the main reasons I stopped playing it is because later on in 2014, I bought a little game on the advice of my friend called Kerbal Space Program. He said, this game looks good. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. It looks a bit like a weird game. I'll give it a go. And we all know how that turned out. So, so that kind of became my space game fix. So I had no real reason to play Space Engineers after that. I did play Elite Dangerous for a bit. I think I got like 30 hours in Elite Dangerous, but then again, I just sort of stopped because I guess I was going super into the trading. Like I was writing down all the prices from different ports to work out the best profit margins and all that, and then I just sort of stopped. And I don't know why, and I've just never ever felt compelled to play it since. I think because it's just not my sort of game. Like it's one of those time sinks that doesn't really have any real objectives. You just kind of trade to make money so you can buy a bigger ship so you can trade more. And I know there is more to the game. You can explore, but you're exploring star systems that are all basically the same sort of thing. And and you can do space battles, but again, it's a really, really good game. I must stress it's a very good game. It's just not for me, But that's it. That's the thing. Like, Frontier makes that, so I feel like a lot of people would like the studio Frontier because they make this game. They make Planet Zoo. They make Elite Dangerous. I haven't played Planet Zoo actually. I mean, I've got it again. I don't enjoy it as much as Planet Coaster, so I don't feel compelled to make a series. And look at that, by the way, we're on an end screen. Wow, we made it. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Left hand side is the full playlist if you want to check out more for some reason. There's other things as well. I guess you guys know how end screens work, so I can just leave it there. Bye.